So ultimately, the conclusion is this. Pastor, that's a lot. I don't even going to wrap my brain around all that. Obedience is purity. Obedience is purity. Think about these verses for a minute as we prepare our hearts for the Lord's Supper. Just listen to these verses and think about, okay, I want to live a holy life. How do I do it? Well, you obey the Word, which means you have to know the Word, and then you obey the Word. Listen to these verses. Wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his way? By taking heed thereto according to thy word. With my whole heart have I sought thee. Well, let me not wander from thy commandments. Don't let me meander off the path. Thy word have I hid in my heart, that I might not sin against thee. Blessed art thou, O Lord. Teach me thy statutes. Jesus said it this way. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Don't marry this relative, don't marry this relative, don't marry this relative, don't eat that food, do eat that food, don't touch that body, touch that body. If you do touch that body, wash these clothes. This is this kind of leprosy, this is this kind of leprosy. No homosexuality, no bestiality, no idolatry. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. How does that help me to see God? Because as I obey it, I begin to see what He values and what He treasures and what's important and what's defiling and what's corrupting. It cleanses our eyes. It gives us clarity. It puts on the right set of glasses. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. There are people who go through life and they say, is there a God in heaven? Does He really care? Does He really know? Is He really interested in my life? He feels distant. He feels far away. He feels uninterested. He's the great clock winder who started the universe, but He certainly doesn't give a rip about the decisions I make. They don't see God and they don't know Him. Why? Because they're not obeying. They're not pure in heart. Well, how do I even know what purity of heart is? Well, we talked about sensual purity and moral purity, but there was a lot of other things in those chapters. Paying wages, just measure, not reaping the whole field. There's lesson after lesson after lesson after lesson in those verses about honesty, integrity, generosity, grace, kindness, forgiveness, not holding a grudge, not being bitter, not hanging on to that anger. I mean, we saw verse after verse. It isn't just moral purity, although that is an important part of the key. Purity is a much broader scope. Jesus saith unto them, I am the way, the truth, and the life. I want to approach God. How do I know it? How do I do it? I know the truth. Who's the truth? The truth is Jesus. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. If ye had known me, you should have known my Father also. And from henceforth ye know Him and have seen Him. How can I see God? Philip saith unto him, Lord, show us the Father. It sufficeth us. Jesus saith unto him, how long have I been with you, and yet thou hast not known me, Philip? He that hath seen me hath seen the Father. You've seen me, you've seen the Father. Study Jesus, study His life. Be imitators of Christ. When we see Jesus, we see God. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. I am the way, the truth, and the life. You can come to the Father and only through me. John 15, I'm the true vine, my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, He taketh away. And every branch that beareth fruit, He purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Now ye are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you. I want to bear spiritual fruit in my life. I want to grow. I want to mature. I want to see God work in my life. Abide. You're clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Do this, don't do this, touch this, don't touch this, eat this, don't eat this, have moral purity, have marriage relations here, but don't have any relations outside. What is that? That's God prescribing purity in its full, broad context. Sanctify them through thy truth, thy word is truth. As thou hast sent me into the world, even so have I also sent them into the world. And for their sakes I sanctify myself, that they also might be sanctified through thy truth. When we are a sanctified people set apart by truth, God is able to send us into the world and use him greatly for his glory. Until that moment, we are hindering the process. You want to live a difference-making life as a Christian where you bear much fruit? Obedience is purity. He gave chapter after chapter after chapter on do, don't, do, don't, because obedience is purity. For the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God. Wherefore lay apart all filthiness and superfluity of naughtiness, and receive with meekness the engrafted word which is able to save your souls. But be ye doers of the word and not hearers only. I went to church this week. I'm good. Maybe we are, and maybe we're not. But be ye doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. For if any man be a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man beholding his natural face in a glass. For he beholdeth himself, and goeth his way, and straightway forgetteth what manner of man he was. But whosoever looketh into the perfect law of liberty, and continueth therein, being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed. If any man among you seem to be religious, well, what does purity look like? Well, it looks like not being a homosexual, Pastor. I got that one down. If any man among you seem to be religious, and bridleth not his tongue. How'd you use your tongue this week? Did you have an angry tongue, a hasty tongue, a complaining tongue, a grateful tongue, a griping tongue, a bitter tongue, a joyful tongue, a praising tongue, an off-color tongue, a pure tongue, an inappropriate tongue? I don't know how you used your tongue this week, but I do know this: out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth. If any man among you seem to be religious and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, that man's religion is pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this: to maintain moral purity with just your spouse. Well, he'll get to unspotted from the world, but that's not the first thing he lists, is it? To visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction? That's purity? Yeah, that's purity. Because purity is first and foremost about a life wholly dedicated to God. That's 99.9% pure gold. A life wholly dedicated to God. And Jesus left heaven's glory and offered himself for the weak and the vulnerable as an act of love and generosity. You want to know how you're doing on the purity scale? Am I living like Jesus in terms of my love, generosity, and grace to the weak and the vulnerable? That'll show me how I'm doing on the purity scale. It isn't about just saying no to moral temptation. It's about living a life completely yielded and committed to God apart from everything else. I want to satisfy and please and live for him and for his glory. Pure religion is to visit the widows and the fatherless in their affliction and to keep himself unspotted from the world. How are we doing? Do we have clean hands and a pure heart? Obedience is, let's pray.